Que no sé.
Relating it to real life, making it fun-based and practical, that's its strength, not dependent on technology, conceptual clarity and so forth. So they've got continuous assessments, they've got tutorials, they've got coursework, end-of-term exam and mid-term exam. So discretionary authority there. The weaknesses are around, if it's chalk and talk, lack of fun in class, lack of time for planning, it's very fixed and predictive, not related to employability skills. So, you're beginning to think about, if one of your objectives is actually students need to get internships at the end of this, you have to prepare them for that. That's part of, not just giving them knowledge, but they have to be knowledge ready, they have to be job ready as well. So there's all sorts of things there. Taking them out of the campus, research-based, role-playing, and then we've got lack of complete engagement with all their students. So what you're beginning to think about are some of the strengths and weaknesses. If we look here, the strengths of some of the teaching and learning methods are simple communication, customisation. And that's quite important about customisation, about contextualising, encouraging lateral thinking. The same things are cropping up again. Role play, real life examples, anecdotes, guidance for the weaker students through positive motivation. But always remember, stretch the good students, because what we focus on is often the weak students and we forget those at the top. And we don't give them as much attention. They're going to get bored in your class, the good students, so you've got to stretch them. You've constantly got to be pushing them, as to what you can do. And there may be ways about adding value there. So the weaknesses are around needing more student involvement, using the range of methods, addressing challenging questions, and leaving the basics unanswered. Too many evaluations and too much load for the students. I started to look at how much assessment you give. Say you have 6 modules in your semester. You have 3 pieces, a minimum of 3 pieces of assessed work per module. That's 18. And how many of you are asking for a presentation on the same day of the week? And how many of you are asking for examination at the same time every week? And how many of you? So how are you talking together together as program teams so that you've got a range of assessments and what skill is it testing and what learning outcomes is it testing. So if you do things as a group, you begin to get the diversity of assessment, the diversity of teaching methods. But you could end up 18 pieces of coursework, and then you say the students are not engaged. Would you be engaged? If you had a choice, you know, somebody at 9 o'clock is asking you for a presentation, and somebody's asking you for a presentation at 2 o'clock. What you're going to do is you're going to say to that member of the group, you work on that and I'll work on this. So you coast through. So, you know, you need to, you know, you can integrate assessment. You can have modules that, you can have one piece of assessment for 2 modules. You can have one piece of assessment for 3 modules. You can mark it together. There are lots of ways. Think about what you're trying to get them to learn and how you're trying to get them to learn. Let's look at this one here, the case studies again, the presentations, the quizzes, the coursework, group, individual, open book, closed book, application and base. And looking at the increasing the interaction, use of internet software, relating to real life and so forth. So the lack of IT-based exams, assessment doesn't reflect the overall personality of the student. It may not always play to their strength. You might need some of that because you might have plagiarism or whatever, but what are you really testing? Are you retesting memory recall? If that's the skill you need, then you test memory recall. If you're testing understanding, what assessment method do you need to do that? So just sort of, I think all of the things are here, and clearly, some of you, or all of you, are doing bits and pieces of this. What you've now got to do, what I want you to do when you come back from the break, is to actually sit down and think about how you're going to improve it. It's all very well having this theory, and you know what needs to be done, but how are you going to do it? What's the one thing you're going to change in your teaching? What's the one thing that needs to change institutionally, and those kind of things. So we're going to do some work around that when we come back about how we could improve it, but what are your barriers to change as well. Then we're going to do some work around looking at different approaches that you might take because they suit you and talking with like-minded people. Then we're going to do some personal action planning, and then we're going to do some institutional action planning. There's no point in me coming here and getting you to critically reflect, and then, you know, you go back in on Monday, the waters come over your head, the next crisis comes along, the next set of students come in. Oh, and didn't we have that woman from the UK sometime? Oh yeah, but I'm just too exhausted and it's all too difficult. You know, so we've got to think about how you embed that learning and take it forward. Okay, so if we have a break now for about 15 minutes, 10 minutes at the most. Okay, take yourselves outside in the sunshine, get some fresh air.